Israel's Prime Minister doubling down on his criticism of the U.S. as the sparring match between Washington and Jerusalem enters its second week. There was a dramatic drop in the supply of armaments arriving from the U.S. to Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu said. American officials have spent the past week denying that the U.S. has slowed weapons deliveries to Israel.
We generally do not know what he's talking about.
But even as Netanyahu continued attacking his American allies, he said the fight against Israel's enemies in Gaza would start to slow. The intensive phase of the war against Hamas is about to end, he said. Netanyahu said that will allow his army to concentrate on the northern border, where Israel's fight against Hezbollah, an Iran-backed militia group, is heating up. Last week, Hezbollah's leader released ominous surveillance footage of major Israeli cities and military installations, boasting about the reach of his group's drones. We went to Kiryat Shmona, an Israeli city on Lebanon's border. It's been a ghost town since the fighting began last October. In the nearly 9 months since this community was evacuated, feelings here have gone from fear to anger to calls for war. What came inside here? Right in through here. This city voted overwhelmingly for Netanyahu. Now they're furious with him. Do you feel as though the government has abandoned the north? Unfortunately, yes. Every day that passes and the situation stays the same, he told me. And they do nothing to bring us back to our homes. American diplomats worry that a major Israeli offensive against Hezbollah could spark a region-wide war. But many in this displaced community see more war as the only path to peace. It's been a week since that war of words between Washington and Jerusalem broke out, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel is now doubling down, insisting once again yesterday that there have been delays in shipments of U.S. weapons to Israel. Now, the U.S. and the White House spent the better part of the last week denying that there were any delays, but Benjamin Netanyahu is still pressing this point. But we've also heard from the Prime Minister here that he is willing to make a partial deal with Hamas in order to free some of those remaining hostages. There's thought to be somewhere between 50 and 80 who are still alive in the Gaza Strip. But he's still sticking to his position that Hamas must be completely destroyed before the war ends. Now all of this is happening, this fighting between Netanyahu and the Biden administration and the lack of a deal to free these hostages as the war between Israel and Hezbollah heats up in the north of this country. We've seen forest fires and firings of shots and munitions by Hezbollah at Israel. The Israelis have been firing back. And it was just a couple of days ago that Hassan Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah, aired out a surveillance video that showed footage taken by drone of some major Israeli cities and military installations. It was an ominous warning and something of a boast showing the reach of his drones and Hezbollah's capabilities should this come to war. Now, we're hearing a lot about this, and Americans particularly have been warning the Israelis and the Lebanese that any war between Hezbollah and Israel would likely break out into the wider region involving Iran and maybe even the United States. And that, just like we're seeing in the Gaza Strip and on Israel's northern border and in southern Lebanon, would be a burden that would be carried primarily by civilians in the region. Matt Bradley, NBC News, Tel Aviv.